to Scope, where we dive in deeper into real estate and talk about the pros and cons of the industry.
I'm Nitin Kumar.
And I'm Elazio Roche. And today we have
Max Spellman.
So we have Mac as our guest. Mac has experience of maybe, I think 40 years, 50 years.
Long time,
right?
Yeah, since the early 80s.
Early 80s in Austin.
Mm-hmm.
Doing land development, doing a lot of commercial, residential,
Management, construction,
so much of stuff. So today is going to be like a lot of wisdom knowledge about real estate, what you can do, not only like residential, but how you can actually become a landowner. Mac, what do you want to tell us to the audience about yourself, like the people who are watching? What is your background? Because it's too much.
Well, you have to love land, and really understand it and almost talk to it in a way, and just feel the dirt. And just, you kind of have to be into it, because I see a lot of people get out there and try to do land flips or, buy something and make a lot of money like they hear about, and they don't do that well. And you have to have a feel for it, and you'll know that, if you love it, that's a good sign. And that's how you start with that. If you don't have a good feel for it, I'd suggest getting one first before you do go and dive into it. You have to care for the land. You don't own it. It kind of owns you, and it tricks you. Like, you have to pay to own land, and you can say you own it, but you don't get to ever take it with you. It stays here and goes on and on. So you just get to be a caretaker for a while, really.
So my experience of actually giving background, I know Mac for almost now 3 years, 4 years. And we did a project. It's called Last Loses. I'll do a plugin. It's in Spicewood. And we built 6 luxury townhomes on it on a 4.5 acre that actually Mac owned the whole land. And my experience of first time meeting Mac is, man, I can't figure out this is the guy who owns so much of land in Austin. He's so down to earth. I have never seen him like behave like, okay, I own 400, 500 acres of land, and that too, that part of Austin, which is so luxury. I can't figure it out. When you see him on the property, you will figure out, okay, he works here. Somebody else owns it. Okay, so brief introduction. If somebody wants to start, somebody wants to come in and say, hey, I want to be a land owner and I want to do stuff on the land, what are your 3 top things you will tell him to do?
Well, keep an eye out. Call on every sign around your area. Like, pick an area first. Like, say it's around where you live, and just call on every sign and get an idea on the prices. I always said, if you looked at 100 pieces and just bought the best one out of those 100, you'd be ahead of the game. Sometimes people want $1 million, but it's not worth $1 million. So maybe they can finance it for you at a low interest rate. So you're still paying the same monthly payment in a way. And you could buy that piece of land. I always look for land that was, there's something wrong with it, like an old abandoned house on it, or the trees are grown up. Nobody's doing anything with it. Doesn't have a sign up, and call on it and get in touch with the owner. And sometimes that can take a long time, be very difficult. Where Los Luces is 228 single family lots, and 200 of them got transferred to the original developer. And Bank of Chicago owned them for 20 years. They foreclosed on them after he'd gone through divorce and bankruptcy, and they owned them. The roads were never finished, and so the county never accepted the subdivision. So it was just a mess up there. And it's by where I live, and we just drove those roads for a long time and ended up being able to buy them for a real good price. They were just trying to get rid of them, but the old roads were in there, and there was junk in there. And after we bought them, there were some stolen vehicles. They were all parked up there one time, and all kinds of crazy stuff. But I look for stuff that needs repair, something that's wrong with it, and try to contact the owner and see what their deal is. And understanding the seller is real important too. Why do they want to sell, or do they want to sell? You have to wait a long time. And so we bought 160 of those lots, and then the other 60 we bought over time, one at a time. Where when he started the subdivision, he said, pick any lot, and he sold 60 lots. And most of the owners were from Houston, and they had owned them, and nothing had ever been done with them. And so we contacted those other 60 owners, trying to piecemeal it all back together. And Some letters I wrote once a year to the old person, but they kept it. A lot of them were these love stories they had when they bought the lot, and they just kept the lot till they died. And the next day, the kids picked up that letter, the file, and saw those letters, and they called me and they said, "We'll sell you that lot in like 3 days." After waiting years and years, and they never responded to most of the letters, but they kept them in the file. So sometimes it takes a long time, and that's real important to pay attention to. Is don't go in and think you can buy a piece of land and turn around and sell it, because the average time we've owned land is about 10 years a piece. And, that seems like a long time when you're young, but when you're older, we've owned some good chunks, along the way. And
When did you started? I know the date, but when did you started buying this? Like, have you ever worked on a job, or you just started doing this from the start?
well, I started buying old abandoned houses all through Austin, especially up in North Austin.
Hmm.
A lot of them were HUD homes when they had those for sale for $100 down payment. Some others were just abandoned, like a little duplex project I had on Tedford was 8 little units. And anyway, I pieced those all together and ended up owning a bunch of houses like you do. And then something big came along, which was a trailer park, mobile home park, and sold all those houses and used that money to foray into the mobile home parks. And then once I got those going, I had the cash flow, which banks love. And so you could borrow a lot of money, a lot, or you could get a loan, maybe not a lot, but, or having a good job is good. If
Hmm.
you have a good job, you have the income to support a habit, you might say. And so then you're able to buy a bunch of little pieces all over. I was lucky to go through the time where there were a lot of foreclosures a couple times during my business. And there's a lot of opportunity there when you have those. You can buy stuff for pennies on the dollar. And of course, the dollar goes up to 10, 20, $100 now, the way prices have gone up. So buying low and selling high, and don't get that mixed up like I did during the 80s. Uh, when you buy it, they say that's when you make your money.
You have an interesting story you told me about the car. Your father gave you some money for the car, and you did something from that, and how you started.
Ooh, uh, I started painting houses, and then I did concrete and just all kinds of construction, which construction and real estate are tied together. And I suggest anybody that does buy real estate know how to do those skills. And each property you buy, you kind of build your equity in it. You try to get it at a good price, of course, but then anything that needs done, you try to have it your own crew or even do it yourself. And so building and hands-on construction and architecture, like we do our plans a lot of times, and knowing how to do those things when they can cost a lot. Architects, if they're 10%, and then builders make 10%, and each one of those pieces that you can add to it, helps you build your equity. And that's what we've done or I've done. And now that my kids are in the business, but we started with a old penny, and we shined it up and then got a nickel for it and traded that nickel for an old rusty pocket knife and cleaned it up, traded it for uh, some other little toy. And then we got a bicycle and a motorcycle, and we came up, and now we have some big land pieces that are just raw land. And, uh, we're prepared to hold them for a long time.
Do you mind telling how much land you own right now in Austin?
Well, we have 600-acre piece out at 281 and 71, and it's got all city utilities, and
Hmm.
it's in ag. We've got cows on it, and it's no one's ever lived on it. It's a complete virgin piece of land, but it's came cleared. That saves a lot. Clearing can cost 10,000 an acre,
Hmm.
uh, and not that you need that done, but it sure helps when you're looking at it. We're going to do medical office up there, and we're trying to learn about that, and uh, so that's our best piece right there that we have. And we may not ever sell it. We may just pass it on to the kids and the grandkids, but it's poised for development. So you have to
That
get
that is not the only one you have, right? You have quite a few more projects you've done.
well, we have some land on 183 North at County Road 258. We have that corner, northeast corner.
Mhm.
That's about 60 acres. We've got the warehouse park, the atomic warehouse park, where when I sold the trailer parks, I needed to do the tax free. So I put it into, we had to produce another income property. And so we built a bunch of warehouses on a 50-acre piece. Uh, and that's our income stream. That you need some sort of income to do just land and speculate like that. It's good to have it. You can go through your savings easy if you don't pay attention to time. I mean, 10 years can go by. So we've got that. We've got the land around the lake that you've been looking at. And seems like we've got a couple other pieces here and there, but we've got some little rent properties that the girls are started out with, learning how to do the repairs and hands-on management. And so we've got a little gamut there, but
When you say little, it's almost like every gamut is like 50 to 100 acres.
I'm sorry. Oh, you're asking it's one of your trick questions?
No, when you say gamut, I think every gamut you have, any project, is at least 50 to 100 acre.
Well, it's the bigger the better. You know, you have attributes of land, like does it have utilities? Do you have to go through zoning?
Mhm.
You know, what can you do with it? That's the end question because that determines what you can sell it for. And there's formulas for all that once you determine what you can do with it. And one of the things I like about really pay attention to land is it getting a bigger piece instead of having 20 acres, you have 600 acres. So it makes it 30 times better.
So I have a basic question. I'll let Ilaj will ask any questions first.
I wanted to ask you, Mac, if you thought land development was easier now than it was before.
Ooh, no, it's getting tough. I mean, if you can even do it, it's only gotten tougher. I mean, I'm just you know, with computers and there's more box checking these days than common sense figuring things out. And uh, if you know how to check boxes, it might be easier. But finding a good piece of land where anytime you want to do something, you're going to get opposition too. Even if it's a good thing, you're going to have people that oppose you. And I took two pieces of land through mobile home park zoning in the city of Austin, and that's a tough one. You have to go through public hearings, and we stayed up till 2 a.m. up there arguing our case. And I got the zoning on both of them because I had good cases, but I don't even know if people attempt to do something like that these days. It's just real difficult. And like the old saying, if it was easy, everybody would be doing it. And I see a lot of people attempt to do some sort of land development, and they just don't do that well. Uh, but they're doing it for the wrong reason. You kind of have that love for land, I think,
See,
and care for it.
Go for it.
I really, really want to understand this concept. I think people like me who have been buying single family homes, very comfortable doing this. But we all think that, okay, this is a smaller game to play, right? The bigger game is you actually start developing yourself. Then you have more control, you know what you want to do. You can actually do even residential or commercial, doesn't matter. But that first step, if somebody wants to take, hey, I want to go from here to there, what is the best advice you will give to that person?
Well, if you have a good knack for it, just finding a good piece of land and buying it, within it was have a lot of options open
Mhm.
in a fast growing area where there's utilities. Pay attention to how utilities serve different pieces of land and what blocks utilities coming. Uh, Pay attention to all those details. And, you know, until you find that piece of land, maybe just buy some single family and uh, kind of build up with that, have a good base and get some income coming in. And it may take a while, just be patient. And
So maybe just buying a lot and developing a single lot, make practice over there in a smaller project, and then go for a bigger project.
yep, yep, you definitely have to start off small. If you inherited a bunch of money, and I have investors that come to me that want to invest, and I don't really deal with them because we're all in house, but you know, you might, if you had a lot of money and you were starting off, I would look for like a 20 or acre or maybe a 50 acre that you could sell off 30 acres and end up with 20 paid for. Having it paid for is real good, or having it paid down is a real good thing to do because you don't know how long you're going to own it. Making payments for 10 years, that could be devastating to your
Mhm.
finances.
Mhm.
Have there been any areas in Austin that have surprised you in the growth?
Oh, I don't do downtown, but downtown just blows me away. I focused on Ed Bluestein and Springdale Road, and that's area's changed. And then I did North Austin a little bit, and then now I'm doing the Southwest for the last 20 years, and now we're going to Marble Falls because taxes have gone up. But uh, I've drove through Thomas Springs and Circle Drive, and there's
Mhm.
just a bunch of old abandoned houses in there, and it's real pretty land. So I told Abby, and she might check that out. And on Fitzhugh Road's a bunch of just like undiscovered. Of course, now people call you during the day trying to buy your land all the time, and that used to be that wasn't the case back then. But uh, and some people when they sell, like when I bought the 600 acres, that guy didn't want to sell to anybody, and he voided out another contract. He felt comfortable with me, so when if you find the seller that's you get along with, they'll probably give you their land, just to find someone to take care of it. But
Just like you are going to give the land to me.
well, you hadn't talked to enough people. I've about gave you some land. You've been so charming sometimes there, Nitin. Everything surprises me in Austin, but I've lived in an area of no growth too when I went to high school, and it was a negative town, and it was no growth, and people they fought to keep the paper mill open, which stunk up the town each day. But uh, people should appreciate living in a fast growth area, and they should watch when they complain and get on these neighborhood websites where they all they do is complain and yick at each other. But
Where did you grow up?
Arkansas, well, I lived in Arkansas through high school, and it was a negative. It's gone down, and they've tried to revitalize it, and it's a few wealthy families that own it, and they probably like a peace and quiet type town. But it's people that stayed there after they graduated. They've all married each other, and they just stuck around, and there's nothing really exciting to say. Uh, so that's why I moved. I wanted something positive and fast growing. I didn't expect Austin to do what it's done. When I moved back was in '81 when I finished high school and college, and uh, I've seen nothing but an area grow like crazy. And uh, used to know everybody, and now you don't know anybody. Well, I just was always interested in like building tree houses and forts and stuff out in the woods. And then when I went to uh, college, I picked architecture, and I followed my love, and that's what the young people need to do. That other than stay grounded is to follow what they like, because what probably the first thing or two that they get into, they'll be for the rest of their life. Anyway, I just did the architecture and then did some modular homes, or they look like where you put them together on site. Did that for a while, and then did the construction deal for a number of years. And I still build tree houses all the time. Nitin almost bought one from me. It's kind of right out on the other side of the property line.
Sluices.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
and that
sort of
tree house
like
is on. Nobody knows who owns that land, but Nitin kind of does now. I had my realtor's license and kind of did the same thing with architect. Just realized it's better not to be one, and you could get one if you needed one, but there's a lot of rules in the realtor. And just by being around a place and try to find a place that you like to live and just hang in there and stay there, and that has a lot to do with it. When you get to know people and you've been there a long time, people seem to favor that.
said it's an in-house company, and so I know that your family is very involved in your projects. How did you get them that love for the land?
Well, that wasn't something that was planned out. It's a shoot from the hip type decision, and I tend to operate more on dealing with things that happen and making the most of them. But Abby and Emily, my twin daughters, had just finished college, and Abby was working in town and as a draftsman, and she just came up to me one day and said she's going to work for me, and I said, "Well, grab a broom." And so next thing you know, we're fighting the tax appraisal office on the values, and Abby helped a lot through that. She does a lot of the legal, and she has a good way of seeing things that are not there. And so she can take a piece of land and look at it and think of some good uses and good designs for that piece of land. And then my other daughter, Emily, showed up the same way about a year later and said, "Dad, I'm going to work for you." So she's helps out in the business. And then both of them are married. And now their husbands are working for us. And they tried to bring in a couple of cousins, and we didn't have enough money to pay for all that. We had to stop it there. And then their mom, Melissa, my wife, she helps out a lot too. She's kind of an interior designer type, and
Mhm.
so it just happened. So when we go to a meeting on land, like with the city of Marble Falls, I'll bring in everybody, and they just kind of say, "Well, we see it's a family business," and they bring in their babies. That's Abby Jr. over there in her lap, and it just happens. When they go to college, they tend to come back and like look for something there.
If you can do your own business, you can be your own boss, nothing like
Your own boss is a tough one. I'd rather have a boss than be my own boss because you
it.
can't quit. You
You're working all the time.
you have to work when you're sick. It's but it's nice. But uh, yeah, I like freedom to just like shoot from the hip, like I was saying, and just wake up and do what I want to do that day and follow my gut. And following your intuition is real important, and doing the right thing. That's always do the right thing and treat people like you'd want to be treated. Uh, Follow the basic principles that our fathers and grandfathers taught us. All this new stuff, I don't know.
Okay,
People,
I'm going to ask a very heavy technical question. Okay, you can take your time and then answer, but this is a very important question which everybody is like, how do people who are successful like you are doing it? Doing any project through underwriting from bank is very tough these days. How do you are able to leverage so much and do all this stuff for the bank's part? That is my question number one. And question number two, you can take your time and combine them. And the second one is, when you go to the city and you say, hey, I want to put this project here, what are the preparations you want people to do? Because that is, these two questions are like, holds everybody back.
well, I can tell you, answer one question right now. When you see something that you want to do,
Hmm.
you persist and you keep focused on the goal, and nothing can stop you. You just keep focused, and if it's not right, it won't happen.
Hmm.
But keeping focused and persistent on it, persistence is one of my big words, and uh, so stay persistent. That's how all things get done. We're building a building now without any plans. A lot of our stuff is without any plans, and drives the inspectors crazy. And uh, but that's just we felt like building it, and we just started building it, and there now the projects are there, and um, get her done, and just get up and do it. That kind of stuff.
I think slowly, slowly, you have built a relationship with the city. You know everybody in the city, inspectors, all that stuff. Maybe they have come and stopped your work, or you figured out how to go there. I'm sure Abby has helped in doing this way better. If I am the person, right, in your commercial lending, how do you leverage all this stuff? Are you putting so much of capital in all your properties, or how are you going to the bank if I want to, let's say, buy a property which is like 50 acre?
Well, this is free, but get online and read the code.
Hmm.
And that's what Abby's done so much of is we've read the tax law, uh, the subdivision rules, and just carefully read the code and abide by that, because they're going to go by the rules. And if you meet all the rules, you'll get your deal through. Now, they will feel more comfortable with you once they see you in there a bunch of times. So if you're trying to get through a county department, just make yourself known and just keep showing up and emailing them, but know the rules. And but yeah, it does sometimes. It's good to hire a land planner or someone that walks you through the permitting. There's people you can hire that'll get your permits for you if you like just to pay to get it done. But when you're starting off on a project, people really appreciate that, as you would, to see you come in, the owner
Hmm.
come in a lot and get to know them and realize that you're just another person, but you are a person, and that helps a lot. And just once you're in an area over time, even 6 or 10 years, you can get yourself known and get out there, and uh, they'll see you're serious about it, and that you're sincere, and that you really your heart's into it, and uh, take that approach too. And once they see that you're persistent about it, they're going to eventually go with you. But we've been turned down way more times than we've been getting the green light. And sometimes that's kind of a fun. You get to know each other. They say, like, if you want to buy a piece of land and they won't sell it, we'll get in a lawsuit with them. And then while you're in the lawsuit, then you buy it from them.
This is not legal advice.
So if you can't get through the county department, just get a big red tag and they'll laugh about it. We had them laughing a few times. But well, the project
That's
Abby just did,
hilarious.
it was all the kids jumped in on it, and we got red tagged so many times. But we were finished with the project when they first came out, and they couldn't believe it. And they said we had to have a set of plans, and we had to spend, gosh, a couple 100,000 on a set of plans for something that was already built. And
Are we talking about last loses, or which project we are talking about?
they did laugh. The first guy laughed. He was just like, "What?"
Okay. Okay, so the park is built without people seeing where it is built. So finally, the park. I've seen the park. I've seen the park.
Yes, it's one we're going to keep for a long time. So we won our permits, and we were going to get them, and we actually tried to make several attempts, but they were changing so fast, and we just started, and we had a tax-free exchange deadline. So I just kept saying full steam ahead. And if we'd got applied for permits back then, we would probably just now be starting on the job. I mean, it could take years to get your permits, but I remember Penny coming out and she just started scratching her head, looking around in the trees and where our buildings were. And she said, y'all don't have any plans. And she was freaking out. But we said, we'll get some, don't worry. But we kept on building, and they red tagged us, gosh, a number of times. But we just had to keep on building. And we said, just fine us and we'll pay the fine. But they didn't ever fine us. They saw we were working on our plans and they were okay with that.
You've already built the park.
I know he's saying it's better to ask for forgiveness than permission.
Something like that. That's after the fact. Don't go in saying that.
Uh-huh.
You know, we had real reasons. We had a deadline that we were going to be facing some big hefty penalties if we didn't get it done.
Mhm.
And we attempted to get a permit. It just didn't happen early on. And anyway, that's just an example. That was a kind of a funny one. But I enjoyed watching the kids like thinking it was the end of the world, you know, when we got the red tag, and they were.
They get panicked, right? They get panicked. Oh, I'm not part of it. I'm not part of it.
Well, I like watching them. You know, I'm teaching them what I know, but I'm also teaching them what I don't know, and I'm watching them make mistakes or find themselves in a crisis situation has been real fun to see how they respond to that. And I don't let them know all the time, and I just like to watch them, see what they do, and
Figure it out.
yeah,
You just need to know how much negative it can go, right? And if you know what is the maximum negative it can go, then you just move on.
yeah, that's right. You just do the best you can,
Mhm.
and then you don't look back.
Correct.
But I mean, sincerely do the best you can from your heart.
Yes.
So what's the
Always.
biggest risk you've underestimated in your career?
Okay, I don't think I've had any big loss projects. I mean, I've had some in the 80s. I got foreclosed on, as did everybody, but I ended up buying those. I thought that was the end of the world, but then a few years went by and I bought the same property back for nothing. And but you know, bankers are a tricky one. You know, try to find and get to know a good banker and just stay with them. The banker that I had, who just retired, I knew him from when he was a teller. Uh, but all the banks shut down. They foreclosed on about everybody or everybody. People were taking their own lives back then, and it was a crisis equal to like the Great Depression or something. But on the cost of building a building, I'm always think it's going to be $10, and it's like
Oh,
$50. But
so
luckily, I
that
started at 10.
You always put your best numbers. Then it turns out more.
Oh,
that's
okay,
every
some stories,
project.
but
Mhm.
well, yeah, two of the mobile home parks I'd tried to buy before. It took me 3.5 years to buy the old trailer park in Oak Hill, and that was my final thing I had before I traded into this property. And this other income was a couple of mobile home parks in Oak Hill, and uh, ended up selling them at a good time for a record price, actually. And uh, but it took me 3.5 years to buy one, and then all the land across the street was owned by the RTC, and that took years to buy something. And you should think you could just come in and buy it, but sometimes you just be patient and persistent, and you can get it for a good price eventually.
So it wasn't for sale, but you were like, I want that, and you just persisted, and that's how you were able to buy
Yeah,
it?
one piece of property, the bank owned it, and I was going to buy it for 3 million. And they turned, you know, they were going to sell it to a builder and all this other stuff. And I got so depressed because I had spent so much time on that subdivision. And then they ended up not selling it. And then the bank went out and they put it up for auction and ran a full page newspaper ad. And I bid on it and got it for $55,000. And I have a lot of stories like that where I bought something for a nickel or 2 cents on the dollar of what they used to have in it. But that's because of the cycle we were going through. And we may go through another cycle, maybe not so severe, but uh, that was a good time to buy stuff. But nobody had any money. And so you just had to sell everything and put it together and make it happen. And uh, there's some good stories in there along the way. But there, I have too many of them to tell, but there's all kinds of good stories. Yeah, the banker, like when, you know, I would lose property, but I did everything I could. I had no money, but I worked the project and they eventually had to take it back. I only went to maybe one or two foreclosures or deed back or whatever, but because I worked with them, when the banker, who was also facing crisis situation at the bank, they didn't end up getting a new job like at Wells Fargo. But that's one thing they would do is call their old customers, and they would call me, and which surprised me because I had to owe them money. Uh, but a lot of times I'd go back and when I made a big chunk, I would go back and settle my debts. Uh, and that's another story I could tell you. That was funny. If you have a debt, if you sign on a note, just be prepared to pay it. You know, no matter what. A lot of them are non-recourse. Where they can't sue you, but you shouldn't take a risk if you're not sure of it and feel good about the property you're buying. And there's so much money in Austin now. We don't have any problems like that. In fact, you just go borrow money from an individual if you need some money. There's always someone. Look at your father. Like if you're trying to start out and you need some money, go to your parents. They usually have a little nest egg, and they'd love to see nobody better than you to get started. Just pick a good property and don't foolishly jump in, and just be patient and look at 100 properties and buy the best one.
So what do you think these new developers, what's their biggest mistake that they're making?
The time, where they'll go buy something and just try to do something with it right away, and
Flip it.
time just squeezes them right there up front. And just buy it and just say it's not for sale, and just sit back, and you'll know when it's time to sell. Um, and if you keep it a long time, that's good. It needs someone to take care of it. And keep it cleaned up, trim the trees up a little bit, pick up all the trash, and get to know it yourself. Walk on it and find all the little natural features and stuff like that. We've got that 600 acres has just some areas where the rock comes out of the ground, and it's just old hard rock. But we're talking about building a building with a plexiglass floor over it where you can see these rocks because we think it's cool. We'll see what happens. That could cost a lot, but they're real neat.
It's just been really nice hearing you talk about it because it doesn't seem like it's just transactional. Like you build relationships, you keep persisting. Like it seems like you have to be patient. You have to build those relationships and it takes time.
It's not for everybody.
Yeah.
You have to be patient. And one thing we do is we meet on Fridays out at the ranch, and we do a lot of ranching activities out there. But we also go to pieces of land like up on the north side across from the hospital, uh, and we just visualize like what would go good here. And one way we do our planning is we just go build the slab in a group of trees and then come back and map that later. And that's how a lot of buildings were built in the way up, like 500 years ago. They built it first, and then they drew the plans later.
You are doing a lot of stuff for the community as well. You have built a couple of churches. Your pet project you are doing, which is you're very close to, is also building another church. So how are you so much doing stuff for the community? What is your end goal on that side?
Well, I heard a long time ago, if you give 10 cents, you'll get back $1. And I don't know how it works, but it seems to work. So don't ever hold back when it comes to giving. This is another instance where you follow your heart when you see the right. And I used to give big chunks to the big community projects, but now just every day someone that is not so fortunate as you, just to help them out, even if it's a lot of money, that's where you get the biggest bang for your buck is an individual that needs help, and they see you help them, and you tell them, not to pay you back, but to pay it forward. That seems, and it somehow just works. You get back a lot more than you give for some reason. So don't ever hold back, and you can't take your money with you. They didn't put a luggage rack on the hearse. So just give it all away as along the way, and giving it to your kids is nothing ever good came of that I can think of, but just let them enjoy life, and don't be afraid to help someone, reach out, and by any means, we're all in it together. So, we all work together as a team. Now the whole world is all working together as a team. We become one now with the internet and travel, and seen a lot of change.
So if somebody wants to reach out to you, to get some advice, I know you're very, very not tech savvy, but what is the best way to approach to you or, to Abby if somebody wants to
Work with you.
work with you and all, right?
Well, they could call you. We've got a website called the Spellman Ranch,
Okay.
and Spellman has 2 ends on it,
Uh-huh.
and get on there, and one of us will call you back. We just started it, so we hadn't finished, but we'll have that up and going, and it'll have our projects on there and different things, and that'll be our eternal way to communicate with us, I think, from now on. Because if I don't get back with you, one of the kids will,
Mhm.
Or the grandkids.
or the grandkids. That girl right there.
So we are joined by our first guest audience. So Abby, thank you so much for being here. But this is Mac's daughter. Tell us a little bit more about your first project and kind of like how it's been working in land development.
So, my favorite project was working with my dad and ultimately selling to Nitin and his group was Las Luces, and that was a really fun one. Yeah, my dad is land development and a builder, like he was saying, and my mom does a lot of interior design work and has a really level head. So, doing Las Luces, my favorite part of the land development is again like my dad said, walking the land, figuring out the nice trees, the terrain, which oaks you want to keep because you can build a house in however long, 6 months or a year, but you to grow a big tree could take
Mhm.
a decade. So
Mhm.
it's very important to work around the trees is what my favorite thing to do is, and then the design comes next. You've seen like they're L-shaped, H-shaped,
Mhm.
just working the terrain and the humans and nature should work together. If every developer worked that way, we wouldn't have to have all these crazy regulations if we just respected the land when we worked it. Anyway, so that was a really fun project. Very molded after a trip to Spain with the white stucco and the red tile roofs and trying to make um, every part very practical, but also adding a lot of corners when we could, even though my dad says less corners the better. But
Adding to my experience working with Abby, actually, we met each other at 2021, 2022,
mhm,
around that time.
22.
And she was so involved in the project. I think the only couple of townhomes were at the when I met you. I think one or two of them were built,
Hmm.
and the four of them were not even framing stage. They have the plot platted and all that stuff and all those stuff. And you were building, maybe you had planned to build eight more. But the speed at which she worked, the consistency she showed, not only the houses done, but it's been more than a year or two. I don't manage the property. None of the people who have bought the property manage the property. Abby manages the property. If there is any problem, we message Abby that, hey, this has happened. What can we do? So she's so friendly, so down to earth. I think she got it from Mac. So Mac is a perfect person to give all the, if I have a choice to give to anyone, I will give it to you.
Well, it takes a team. I again he brought up my sister because
Mhm.
and we have our husbands involved now and what he did, it takes four of us to do, and it takes definitely teamwork. And but yes, like you said, we love that land. We love that property. I love those condos are my first kids.
Mhm.
I've had my three kids while building them, and but they would just, like I bring her, I just strap them in, and they'd go to the site with me, and hardly. I think I took like 3 weeks off, maybe 2 weeks off, and I had
Mhm.
John and then I was at the site again, and he just came with me. I mean, we still drive by him. If y'all ask for help, like, I love going there. And, regarding the Atomic Warehouse Park, he said we did not have a permit, but we did have a permit. We had a
Just
building
to
permit.
clarify.
And with the, yes, to clarify, we had everything we needed. We were on a very strict deadline,
Mhm.
but we worked with the county before we even bought the property, got the permits because we had a rough idea of what we wanted. And he said, this looks good. It was the environmental entity. I had emailed the email on their website that they recommended, but it was not the email that the inspectors would have wished I had emailed. And so we had all that documentation though that we had reached out to them and they had wishes for us. But again, we work so well with the property because we respect it so much that a tree could be right next to a building, and the concrete guy says, please just take that tree down. It'd be so much easier. And we said, do not touch that tree. We've had the engineer come out saying, is there a way we can work with you? Because this tree is 100 years old. Like, we can't do what you said. And it doesn't make sense. Like, on paper, you work on the computer, but we're out here.
Mhm.
And so the environmental entity that takes very good care, because developers do come in and they clear cut. So they have to make sure, because that causes issues. I don't have to get into it, but they see how much we respect the property and they've worked with us. We've worked with them. I don't recommend doing it that way, but if you respect the property, respect the entities, respect the people, give them the time of day, don't yell at them. We're all here to make the world a better place. So they will respect that if you respect them.
I think you guys are a great team. Mac keeps going. In our case, I think I'm not the organized one. She is. He talks to everybody and manages stuff way better than me. So that helps. Having somebody who can, manage on the back end everything.
Absolutely. A good way to contact us, my dad, Max Spellman, is we've created a website, spellmanranch.com. And again, we're just looking into things to do with it, whatever that is. And Atomic Warehouse Park, we, went those out. We built Las Luces Village. And yes, if anyone is interested in creating a space or a home, a development out, west of Austin, we have a lot of land, a lot of great ideas. We've been working with the city. We have about 600 acres. It'd be great for medical offices. It'd be great for Amazon warehouses or whatever, smart cities. So yeah, we'd love to hear more ideas and work with you guys. Dad, do you want to say the goodbyes with her?
Okay.
Do you want to sit?
What are we saying goodbye?
It's just the closing.
Oh my God. You can be with me.
Here, Dad, you can. Do you want her to sit with you? Yeah. Do you really?
Yeah, she means it.
I don't want her to cry.
I think she would.
Hello. You want to say hello? Hello?
Thank you so much for being here today. This was wonderful. And we'll see you at the next episode.
Thank you.
Enjoyed being here.
Yeah, thank you so much for having us.
Yes, appreciate it.